Hello, welcome to this week's edition of MMA News, and we'll just jump right into it as usual. This last weekend was the UFC 153 event where which had kind of gone through one of those hectic, injury-prone stages. The main event was originally going to be Jose Aldo versus Eric Koch fighting for the featherweight title, but that got postponed because of an injury from Koch. And then Frankie Edgar was originally going to fight, but then Aldo got injured, so Edgar got pulled as well. And finally, Anderson Silva and Stephan Bonner stepped up and volunteered to do a main event. Now, so I will go over the main card. Damian Maia, of course, once again showing his submission abilities. Submitted Rick Story in the first round, but not before showing that his striking game has improved. We've kind of known that since his fight with Silva, but and that was actually at welterweight. So Maia may be trying to build up eventually to a possibly a welterweight title shot, but we're gonna see how that goes. Then the next fight was Phil Davis versus Wagner Prado, and Davis also showing off his submission skills. He was a pretty he wrestled is what he did, and as we know, 2008 national champion for Penn State, he's obviously shown his improvement since his loss with Rashad Evans. So he's definitely still in the light heavyweight picture. How close to a title shot? I'm not certain. He's going to need to get a few more fights in, obviously, before we could even start talking about a title shot. If he'd won that fight with Rashad, he probably would he may have gotten a title shot, but we will not know. So then there was the John Fitch versus Eric Silva fight. Silva showed some potential. He did grapple with Fitch a little bit, but Fitch just out-wrestling him. Fitch, unfortunately, has kind of shown people that he's a horrible ground and pounder. He knows how to... He's a good wrestler, but he's just a horrible ground and pounder. Making it to a decision. Then we had the Glover Teixeira fight versus Fabio Maldonado. And that was a good fight, but kind of another demonstration as to Mario Yamasaki's lack of judgment when it comes to officiating a fight. Because the fight really should have been stopped in the first round, but and of course this fight was really supposed to be between Teixeira and Rampage, and it looks like that may actually still happen, but we'll see what happens. Because, after all, Rampage wants out of the UFC. Dana White wants him gone. He's got one fight on his contract left, so eventually they're going to give him that last fight. And we would probably see Rampage in one UFC. But anyways, then in the co-main event, we had Big Nog versus Dave Herman. Now, Dave Herman had been flapping his mouth a little bit, saying that Jiu-Jitsu doesn't work, which... against Big Nog, obviously, was proved otherwise, because Nogueira's kind of been getting a little bit of a resurgence in his career, despite pretty much being an old man in the fight game, because he's taken some beatings. It was his first fight since getting surgery when Mir snapped his arm. But he went out there and he won, and it was nice to see him win again in his native Brazil. So that there was that, and then Anderson Silva, Stephan Bonner. Silva once again demonstrated how good of a fighter he is, because it took basically a knee to the ribs to put Bonner down on the ground, and before that, Silva was kind of basically toying with him when he was up against the fence and actually took some shots to the face. Obviously not damaging, and obviously there's been talks about a title shot between Silva another super fight between Silva and Bonner, and then also talks about another fight between, Silva and John Jones, and there's also been talks about a fight between Silva and GSP. I think the Silva GSP fight really should happen first, despite the resurgence of John Jones. He's, in his short time as champion, tied Chuck Liddell's defense record, and in another fight would basically tie the record. We'll see what happens. But as I said, it was a good fight card. So now this week is kind of a lull in UFC fights, but there's still some good fights coming up. Mainly in Bellator. Oh, speaking of which, there was that recent announcement that the Ultimate Fighter will be moving away from Friday nights, because they kind of they first of all realized that the live format wasn't working, and then they also realized that the other format, excuse me, they're kind of realizing now that the Friday night format just isn't good either. So anyways, this last weekend in Bellator, you had in kind of a super fight, you had Eddie Alvarez going against Patricky Freire. Much more simple name. Pitbull is his nickname. And Alvarez took him out at the end of the first round. Now, why Alvarez is not in this tournament, I suspect may have to do with the fact that his contract's coming due. So maybe I don't know if UFC, just because of how the Bellator contracts are structured, UFC can make an offer and Bellator could either choose to match that offer, or there's a whole complicated way of doing things. But anyways, so Alvarez won that fight, and then in the featherweight tournament, you had Red Martinez, Wagner Fabiano, Mike Rickman, and Shabula Shamahalbe move on. This is basically a field of, to me, unknowns. So, these guys are all going to go in there and fight, and we'll see what happens. But, it's definitely an intriguing field, because, as I said, I don't know any of these guys, but obviously they're up there, and Bellator has a way of building rising stars in MMA. So, but anyways, this week, Bellator 77, last week was 76, we're going to be having Rich Clemente, a veteran in the lightweight tournament, going against Alexander it looks like Nusky. Then Rene Nazar versus Ricardo Tilhan, Marcin Held versus Murad Machev. Dan Jensen versus Megamed Saudulov. Honestly, the only guy who I see really in this tournament is Rich Clemente, and I think it's his tournament to win. He's been in and out of a few different tournaments. He was promotions. He was in Dream. He was in the UFC. So it's really his tournament to win. He's the experienced guy, and he's fought with Bellator before, but he's got to prove that he's still relevant, or whether he's just a long-time veteran. It's definitely his tournament to win. So, you have that. Then you have the steadily rising Super Fight League in India. This week they're having their 5th event in Mumbai. It's once again going to be streamed live on YouTube. I haven't seen any of these fights yet. I'm sure at some point I'll take a peek at it, but as of right now, I have not. As of right now, I haven't seen any. But they're actually rising pretty far. They're basically building up the market, and there was a point where they were going off of some big international stars, but right now they're mainly concentrating on the Indian, the local Indian market. Just because of that, there's like no real big name people. Last week's fight card was supposed to have Todd Duffy and Jeff Monson, but because of how they were restructuring things, that didn't happen. So it's definitely interesting to see how this has been going. Past fight cards up until last week, because they're now on a they're now on a weekly fight card now. Before that, they were including much more diversified fight cards, but now as I said, they're primarily in the Asian market. I remember seeing this one post on a forum that said it might be because the MMA forum that I'm on with that said it might be because they possibly ran out of money. There's obviously no conclusive proof of that, but there's a possibility that it may be just because of there's really no way of knowing. This is a very new promotion, and the way they structured things is really up to them. This upcoming fight card this weekend has only 2 foreigners, one from the Ivory Coast and one from Egypt. So we'll see. This is an interesting promotion. There's been a few different promotions on the rise recently. ONE FC's been one of them, obviously. Super Fight League is another one. There's some markets out there that are that have a lot of potential. And on this one segment from MMA Uncensored on Spike TV in their last show, actually not the last show, but in one of their shows, they mentioned the CEOs talked about possibly getting bigger audience in the UFC, but we're out of time. We'll just see what happens. So see you next week.